Mark.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
You got it.
And thank you all for listening and tuning in to this week's episode. We are in season 2 of the Jumper Cable Records podcast, where together we discover new artists and learn from industry professionals. We are super fortunate, y'all. We are sitting down in Nashville with the big man on campus out here. He is actually both of those things. He is a musician and an industry professional. He is a singer-songwriter. He's a producer. He's the owner of 12 South Farmers Market. Oh my goodness. Co-owner of Sobr Bar Nashville and a music supervisor. That's just a short list. Whoa. Holy cow. So I'm talking, of course, about none other than Mr. Mark Mulch.
Now I know why I'm so tired.
All the introductions, right? Mark, this is such a pleasure.
Thank you.
I've really been looking forward to this for a long time. It feels like we only met a couple months ago.
Yeah. It
was at a book launching event for the book, The Musical Imprint, which I can go on for an entire episode about, but...
Melissa Balea.
Yes. Shout out, Melissa. Thanks for connecting us. But we met there, and I remember being so fascinated by your story.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
I just wanted to keep hearing from you and just let you talk. So I actually thought, during a magic show when, there's a magician's box in front of him and he starts pulling out this like silk handkerchief and you realize that it's like a seemingly endless. I feel like that's you. You're like the endless handkerchief.
That's funny.
There's this kaleidoscope
It's
of
a good
colors.
Analogy. I like that. I'll have to use that.
That's how I view Mr. Mark Mulch here. But that's what it felt like, getting to know all the tricks that you have up your sleeve. Would you mind us getting to know you a little bit more?
Sure.
We're so excited.
Yeah.
We had to have you on the podcast. We just have a lot to glean from your expertise. Just a minute ago, I told our listeners the short list of what you do. Can you tell us more? How you got started?
Sure. Well, like I was just telling you before we started the podcast, yesterday was my 18-year Nashiversary, as I call it. 18 years living here in Nashville. I've been writing and coming down here for 22 years already, which seems crazy. And it's just, it's been a wild ride, to say the least. Moved down from New Jersey. Was as you just said, a music supervisor at a company called Creative License and a few other companies, including J. Walter Thompson Advertising. So I was mostly a music supervisor for ad agencies and worked on commercials for about 5 years. And that was a great job, but I wasn't playing music anymore. So I quit like the big boy job in Nashville, in Manhattan, to move to Nashville and, left that whole kind of more corporate side of the music business behind and came here 100% to just do music and songwriting. And luckily have been doing that ever since I got here.
Oh, so good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So we want to know everything you're working on now. What are all your projects? Where can we find you?
Well, the latest thing is working right now with my good friend and who we like to call each other bro-ducers.
Okay.
My friend and brother Daniel Dennis at Prime Cut Studio. We're working on a summer EP that's coming out. It's summer themed songs, no holds bar, funny songs. There's one serious song on it, but it's just a good time. EP, 6 songs, that's going to be called Days in the Sun, named after a song that I wrote with Brecken Miles, who I think you met at Melissa's thing as well.
Yeah.
And it's going to be collaborative too. Like everyone that I wrote with for the record is not only a songwriter, but they're also an artist. So they're going to perform on it. I think you also just had American Blonde, didn't you? Yes, American Blonde. Yes, they just sang on the song that me and Nat wrote, and so that's going to be coming out. I would say the first single come out in April, and then we'll just continue to roll out the songs, and the EP will probably come out right around May, something like that.
Heck yes.
So, yeah.
Get ready, springtime, summertime.
Yeah, so that's the music stuff that's going on, and then we have 12 South Farmers Market. Just started.
Love that.
With Dottie, my market manager, we started planning the 2023 season, which marks 12 years in 12 South.
Oh my gosh.
I've been the owner of the market for going on to my 6th season, but I've worked for the market for, I would say, 9 years out of the 12. And we have a bunch of big plans for our 12th year in 12 South.
That's huge. I mean, 12 South Farmers Market is huge already. We cannot wait to see what you guys have
Thanks.
coming up. Okay, you're basically running the world. Right?
Maybe in my own little Nashville world.
Well, I know a lot of our listeners feel like musical entrepreneurs themselves in their own right. So, because when you're a musician, you kind of feel like your hand is in everything. And so I think that came very naturally for you. But can you walk us through a typical day in your life as an industry professional and just what that looks like? And do you have any time management tips?
I definitely don't have any time management tips. I'm just like, I thought about that yesterday. Sometimes my friends will say, what are you doing today? And I say all the things.
Yeah.
And yesterday was one of those days because I had to do farmers market stuff. The first thing I had to do was one of the things we talked about, off line was that my Sobr Bar Nashville, which I have with my partner Colin Hansen. We just had our first ever Sobr Bar New Year's Eve party. And so I had to do a reel for that, a recap reel. And I don't know what I'm doing. But I like doing it and I'm trying to get better at it and stuff like that. But that was like the beginning of the day. And then it skipped immediately into music stuff. I'm planning a show for my 18-year Nashville next week. I had farmers market stuff to do. I had music supervision stuff to do. I'm a music supervisor right now for a documentary called The Jersey Sound, which is all about Jersey musicians and music and there really is a Jersey sound. Whether for people that means Bruce Springsteen, whether it means Bon Jovi, whether it means Frank Sinatra. But working with a great group of people on that documentary. So I mean, that's like my day, and then sometimes the day ends with after all of that going and performing somewhere. Whether it's a songwriter night or whether it's a show or whatever. But
that sounds so fun, though.
And I think I just basically bounce from one thing to the other. I'm trying to give each thing a day. Like Monday is music supervision day. Monday nights, Colin and I always have a Sobr Bar meeting. We have like what's normally on a Thursday farmers market meeting. I think that helps. Like if you're doing a lot of different things, what I'm starting to find out is that if I give each thing its own day, where it's more of the focus for that day, then I get a lot done that one day. And then I can also continue to work on those things, but maybe only for 2 or 3 hours a day the rest of the week.
Peripheral. Yeah. That's cool. Just blocking out the time.
But there are those days where I just
dedicating it.
Do it all. I'm just bouncing from one to the other, whichever thing pops up.
So you brought up Sobr Bar Nashville, which we want to talk about for a minute and give that a little highlight. So you had your first
Cheers. For those who are watching, where's this going to be on?
YouTube.
There you go. Cheers. You can have non-alcoholic beer at 11:30 in the morning.
See, that's cool. Look outside. Sun's out. Buns out. Part. I don't know. No, but that's so exciting. You just had your first New Year's Eve party.
Yes.
New Year's party. I also saw that you had a booze cruise, a non-alcoholic
We did.
booze
Our good
cruise.
friends, my friend Andrew owns Pontoon Saloon, which is a very popular party boat company here in town, the party boat company. And we tried out a NA booze cruise, no alcohol booze cruise, and it was a blast. And it was actually at the end of their season too, so it was pretty cold out that day. We're super excited about continuing that when the spring rolls around and the summer, and it might even become a normal cruise for them, and that would be really great because everybody had such a good time,
That's so cool.
Yeah, so Sobr Bar is an idea that I came up with about 2 years ago. When I'm 2 years, 7 months sober, and thanks. And came up with the idea, and originally started talking to it with another friend, my friend Craig, and then I met Colin a little over a year ago, and we just really hit it off. He totally got the vision that I had for it, and we kind of took off with it. we were in the midst of still planning and kind of had only just came up with our logo and then I got asked by the Nashville Predators to play at their craft beer festival, which is the first time they were able to have their craft beer festival in 3 years because of, the pandemic and everything. And I don't know, I just took the chance on the phone call to ask if we could have a booth, even though we didn't know what that was going to be or anything. But luckily, the people from Untitled Art beverage company, who, if you ask us, they do the best NA craft beers in the business, but along with like Well-Being and some other ones that are also really good, they backed us. They gave us product. The Predators gave us a booth at the craft beer festival, and I kid you not, I'm not bragging or nothing. We were the most popular booth at the festival, and it kind of made us realize that how many people were out there that needed it or wanted it. And then we rolled from there. Lightning 100 allowed us to be at Live on the Green after that, and we've just kind of been rolling ever since. So.
Okay, that is so rad, like so fantastic, because it really, I keep telling you, like, this is so needed. You know that this is so needed, especially in a city like this, but I mean all over the country. So if you do happen to be touring in Nashville or you're traveling here, just look out for some events by Sobr Bar Nashville.
Yes, SOBR.
SOBR. That's right. Don't you forget it, all right?
Yeah, we call... Nashville is a drinking city with a music problem. So.
That's right. So awesome. SOBR, Sobr Bar. So, okay, man, we talked about your music. We've talked about the farmer's market. We've talked about Sobr Bar. You also music supervise. So for those of our listeners who are outside of the music business world or the industry world, music supervisor can be really kind of an abstract idea. True. It's just, a term that they hear. In layman's terms, could you describe what or who a music supervisor is and what you do?
Sure. Music supervisor can be anywhere from just purely clearing what the production or the director of film, TV, documentary, like I'm working on now, commercials, or you could be directly involved with those people, the director and the producers of those different productions, in choosing the music and finding the right music for it and everything like that. The thing I'm currently working on is more, 150 artists have been interviewed by Fulvio, our director, and he just wants certain songs to be playing, either before or after the interview or under the interview. So I'm acting more in a clearance, a music clearance way. I think for artists that are listening, with the way streaming is going right now, and I know we're making improvements on how that's being paid out and things like that, but synchronization licensing, getting your music in a film or TV or commercial is huge, because that's where you really could, make some big money, and money that could fund a record, or any kind of project, or your merchandise, which then you can sell your merchandise. I just think, I know for me, and my, I'm solo now, but when I moved down here with my friend Nick, and we started the Mulch brothers. And one of the very first things that happened was we were still doing music supervision for ad agencies, and we actually won one of the campaigns, and we wrote a jingle for a healthcare company, and that money is what funded our first EP.
Oh yeah.
And if that hadn't happened, not that we wouldn't have eventually put music out, but we put music out a lot faster because of it.
It's an accelerator. That's
a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you as a music supervisor are a connector. You're truly the guy who gives these songs the exposure that they need. And again, from there, it becomes an accelerator to the artists that you're working with. But anyone who's ever watched a film or a TV show or really any ad, anything like that, every single one of us have been impressed and have remembered music from these platforms that you're working with.
You're right.
That you're promoting. What are some do's and don'ts of getting your music synced in film or TV? Are there, or do's and don'ts of trying to? Can you maybe help our musician friends with some synchronization etiquette?
I think you have to find out, if you're watching something, I'll use an example from me. I just wrote a song with another artist here in town, Danielle Johnson, and we feel like it's something that maybe Yellowstone could use. Now, you got to try to get to that person, and then is that person the music supervisor or is it the director? You know, which person is really picking the music? Is it both of them? You then have to figure out the best way to get to that person. You got to find out the way that they want your stuff presented. You know, you don't want to just blindly send it because that's probably going to get you.
Don't do that.
No, it's kind of similar to what we used to. I don't know if they use this term in Nashville anymore, but when I first got here, they called it Gramling, which was don't walk up to, you know, Keith Urban at the movies and say, "Hey man, I got a song. Like, you know, you need to hear my song." He'd be like, "No, I don't."
That's a big don't. Yep.
And so that, you know, find out who the right person is, how they like the music delivered, if they are accepting stuff, and you'll do much better if you take those steps, because then they know that you know how it works. They may not listen to your music right away, so don't be discouraged that you didn't hear back a couple days later or a week later or a month later. It may be 3 months down the road that they'll need, you know, new music, or they'll remember that your music sounded a certain way and they'll come back. I mean, when I worked in Manhattan and was a music supervisor for ad agencies, there were the campaigns that the director knew exactly what he wanted, and then there were the campaigns where they came to us and they wanted to know what we thought, you know, and what, you know, songs we thought would maybe work, or, you know, maybe they had a genre in mind or something like that. But you really have to do your kind of due diligence, I guess, would be said, or, you know, to find out who the right people are to go to and stuff, and then be persistent but not annoying.
Yes.
I guess is the best way to put it.
No, that's really, I love that you pointed out you need to figure out how they like to receive that, if they are receiving music. And then again, don't get discouraged because they have stacks of music.
God. Yeah.
So, you're adding to the library, and it's all about timing there. So just, it's their needs and timing. So don't get discouraged right away. That's so important.
I can't imagine, because I'm dating myself a little bit here, but when I worked in it, you know, every day, I was receiving CDs.
Yep.
And I mean, I was getting at least 50 CDs a day.
Right.
From record labels, from independent record labels, from independent artists. I mean, it was just, so I can't imagine now when you're talking about streaming and digital, you know, where there's just millions of songs.
And they're sending you links, download links and things.
Yep.
I mean, it's easier. There aren't visible stacks, I should say. But
good point too, though. What that just triggered something was, you no longer, it's about the music and whether or not the music works, because they are not even seeing you. They're not seeing your artwork. They're just hearing the song.
Exactly.
And that's it. So make sure it's good. Make sure it's mastered, by the way. Yes. I think most artists know that they need to get their music mastered, but it's a big deal in the final process in making your music, no matter where you recorded it, no matter how you recorded it. If you get it mastered well, it'll stack up or be able to stand next to anyone else, you know, in the business.
For sure. Don't send in your voice memos on SoundCloud.
Exactly.
Have them sweetened, mastered, we're good.
Right.
Good to go. We're not really switching gears here, but that was a great transition. I wanted to know, we just started a new year. It's 2023. You've been in Nashville for 18 years now. For this new year, what projects are you most looking forward to? I know you have your summer EP. Is there anything else, any way that we, Jumper Cable Records, and our listeners can support your projects this year?
Oh, wow. Just to follow me on Instagram. I'm not a Facebook person, really. I do post a little bit, but Instagram is the main thing. And also, however you listen to music now, whether it be, you know, Spotify, Apple, Tidal, YouTube, you know, make sure to follow each of my platforms, because it's such a big deal now. People, yes. Even when you're going for the smallest gig, even at a coffee house or whatever, they'll come back and say, "Oh, I noticed you have X amount of followers, or you have X amount of followers on Spotify or Instagram." And So that's a big deal to us now, because that's kind of how you're validated, unfortunately, before your music is heard.
It's true. It's a gateway. I mean, that's kind of the currency in this climate now. So, I mean, that's huge. Support, follow. Yeah. Big deal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just so excited. I'm so thankful that you're here today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. I've learned a lot, and can't wait to apply all of this to the workflow and just allow our listeners to navigate the music industry with everything you've taught us.
I'm super interested in what you guys do, because like I said before we got started, was I need to do better at this kind of stuff, like not only press but also being on camera and things like that. It's a weird part of the business that I'm up for playing in front of just about anybody, whether it's 3 people or whether it's 300,000, but when it comes to like doing video or stuff like it's just
sitting down. I know you like kind of feel naked. I mean,
or looking into the camera and trying to do. I had to do some of that stuff for a single I put out in October, and I used B Suite Management as my social media manager, and they, I was supposed to be doing all these video things, and I had such a hard time because I would do it and look back at it and go, oh my God, that looks terrible, but trying to that's a 2023 goal.
There we go.
Is to be a little bit better with that stuff.
We're all our own worst critics. But I know for a fact that a lot of our listeners are listening and like nodding their heads and going, yeah, I totally know the feeling. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mark, how can our listeners connect? So on Instagram, what's your handle? Is it at
Mark Mulch Music?
At Mark Mulch Music.
Mulch like you put in your yard, as we say.
There you go.
Yeah, Mark Mulch Music I've tried to be good with that. Like everything across the board, Facebook, all that is Mark Mulch Music, and markmulchmusic.com for usually pretty good with up-to-date show dates and tour dates and stuff.
All right, so follow along. You've all just heard from the 100-time threat. Singer, songwriter, producer, music supervisor, business owner, awesome guy, Mark Mulch. Stick around to hear more from his acoustic exclusive set.